After 10,000 hours in Elden Ring, I discovered something that changes everything we thought we knew about the game, and I'm not talking about some random illusory wall or hidden item. I'm talking about secrets so deeply buried that FromSoftware probably thought no one would ever find them, and the craziest part is that the final secret I'm about to share with you connects every single mystery in the lands between in a way that will completely blow your mind. But before I get to that earth-shattering revelation, I need to tell you about the impossible discoveries that led me there, because without understanding these first secrets, the final one won't make any sense. Let me start with something that took me 3,000 hours to notice. You know those jar enemies you've been smashing throughout the game without a second thought? Well, they're not just random enemies. They're actually filled with the corpses of warriors trying to become one. Yeah, you heard that right. Every single jar you've destroyed contains the melded remains of people who voluntarily stuffed themselves inside, believing they could achieve some form of ascension by combining their flesh with others. The game literally tells us this through Alexander's questline, but here's what nobody talks about. If you look closely at the jar ban in Jarberg, the little jar kid, you can actually see finger bones and teeth textures modeled inside his cracks. FromSoftware put anatomically correct human remains inside a child NPC that most players never even find. But that's not even the disturbing part. The disturbing part is when you realize why there are so many jar warriors near the Erdtree roots, and why the Erdtree burial practices involve returning bodies to the roots. The jars are trying to mimic what the Erdtree does naturally, absorbing bodies and reconstituting them into something else. The warriors inside believed they could bypass the Erdtree system and achieve the same rebirth through their own grotesque method. This connects to a much bigger secret about the Erdtree itself that I'll reveal later. But first, you need to understand what I discovered about Melina. Everyone knows Melina is mysterious, but after thousands of hours, I found something that completely reframes her entire story. In the frenzied flame ending, her eye opens, revealing a purple iris that matches the sealed eye of Rainey's corpse exactly. Not similar, not close, exactly the same texture, the same color values, the same gloam-eyed purple that appears nowhere else in the game. But here's what sent me down a rabbit hole that consumed 500 hours of testing. If you use the telescope item to zoom in on Melina's closed eye during normal gameplay, at certain angles when the light hits just right, you can see that eye moving beneath the lid. It's tracking you. The eye that's supposedly sealed shut is following your character's movement. This led me to test something insane. If you stand in specific locations while Melina is talking, locations that correspond to where major events happened in the past, her closed eye twitches. Stand where Marika shattered the Elden Ring, it twitches. Stand where Godwyn died, it twitches. Stand at the mountain top where the fire giant's god was slain, it twitches. The game is telling us that Melina's sealed eye can see the past, can see the moments of death that shaped the current world. And this isn't some glitch or accident because FromSoftware programmed these specific coordinate triggers into her facial animation system. But wait, it gets crazier. Remember how I mentioned the gloam-eyed queen earlier? That purple eye color that Melina reveals? I discovered that if you overlay the pattern of Melina's burn marks with the shadow patterns cast by the Godslayer Greatsword at exactly noon in-game time, they match perfectly. The burns on her body are in the exact pattern of the black flame shadows. She's not just burned, she's marked by the specific shadow signature of destined death itself. This means Melina didn't just know the gloam-eyed queen, she was either marked by her or marked by the same power that created her. Now, you might be thinking this is already insane, but I haven't even gotten to the secret that took me the longest to uncover. You know that wall in Volcano Manor that takes 50 hits to open? Everyone thought that was the big secret wall discovery, but that's actually a decoy for something much bigger. After hitting walls throughout the entire game, literally every single wall, I found 3 more that respond to hits but require different numbers. There's one in Lendl that takes exactly 100 hits, one in the Erdtree that takes 77, and one in Farum Azula that takes 33. The numbers 50, 177 and 33 aren't random. They correspond to the number of years between major events in the timeline. 50 years of the Shattering War, 100 years since Godwyn's death, 77 years since Melina bloomed, and 33 years since Ranni stole the Rune of Death. But here's the thing that made me actually yell out loud when I discovered it. If you hit these walls in reverse chronological order, so Farum Azula, then Erdtree, then Lendel, then Volcano Manor, and then rest at a grace without doing anything else, when you reload the game, there's new item descriptions. Not new items, but certain items in your inventory have different descriptions that reveal parts of the story that were hidden. The Tarnished furled finger suddenly mentions a name that doesn't appear anywhere else in the game. The Crimson Amber Medallion references an event that predates everything we know about the Golden Order. The preserving boluses of all things contain a recipe that's actually a coded message about Marika's origins. Speaking of Marika, and this is where I need you to really pay attention, because if you've made it this far, you're about to learn something that 99% of players will never discover. Actually, before I continue, if you're finding value in these discoveries, consider dropping a like on this video. It genuinely helps the algorithm understand that people want to see deep dives like this, and if you want more content where I explore the impossible secrets hidden in games, subscribing lets you know when I find the next mind-blowing discovery. Seriously, the next secret I'm about to share took me 2,000 hours alone to piece together. So, Goldmask. Everyone jokes about the T-posing guy, but nobody realizes he's literally pointing at something. His fingers, when standing in his various locations, create sight lines that all converge on a single point in the game world. I'm not making this up. I spent weeks calculating the exact angles of his pose, the direction of his fingers, even the tilt of his mask, and every single position he takes points to the same coordinate in three-dimensional space. That coordinate? It's inside the Erdtree, but not where you fight Radagon. It's in a location you can't actually reach. A room that exists in the game files but has no entrance. Using free cam mods to explore this space, I found something that shouldn't exist. A complete throne room with unique architecture that doesn't match any other area in the game, and in the center, there's a model of a shattered statue that looks like Marika, but with one crucial difference. She has a child with her. A child that doesn't match any of the demigods we know. The model is fully textured, fully rendered with unique clothing that combines elements from both the Nox civilization and the fire giants. This isn't cut content because it's too complete, too deliberately placed. It's a secret room that tells a story they wanted to hide in plain sight. But the way to actually understand what this means requires connecting it to another discovery. You know how some enemies have death animations that seem weirdly specific? Like they're reaching for something or looking at something as they die? I cataloged every single enemy death animation in the game, all of them, and found that certain enemies always die facing specific directions. The Crucible Knights always face the direction of the nearest minor Erdtree. The Death Birds always face the direction of where Godwyn's corpse is under Stormveil. The Ancestral Followers always face the Sciophar riverbank where you find the ancestral infant's head. This led me to realize something. The game is showing us ley lines, invisible connections between locations that matter to the story. And when you map all these death-facing directions, they create a pattern. A pattern that matches exactly with the root system of the Erdtree shown in the Prince of Death's throne room. The enemies aren't just dying, they're being pulled back to specific collection points, and those collection points all feed into the Erdtree's root system. The Erdtree isn't just a tree, it's a massive collection network for souls, and every death in the lands between feeds it. This brings me to the St. Trina and Miquella revelation that completely reframes their entire story. You know how St. Trina is associated with sleep, and Miquella is trying to cure his sister's rot? I found proof that St. Trina isn't Miquella's alter ego like everyone thinks. Saint. Trina is Miquella's attempt to create an artificial outer god. Every single item description about St. Trina mentions purple, which is the color you get when you mix Scarlet Rot's red with the blue of the full moon. Miquella was trying to create a new outer god that could counteract both his sister's curse and his mother's golden order by combining their influences into something new. The Albinoric village holds the key to understanding this. You know that place is creepy, but have you ever wondered why there are exactly 72 Albinorics hung on those poles? 72 is the number of demigods mentioned in the game's files, including ones we never meet. Each Albinoric represents a failed attempt to create artificial life that could hold a great rune. Miquella didn't just create the Erdtree as a sanctuary. He was experimenting with creating life that could bypass the greater will system entirely. The cocoon isn't him trying to become an adult, it's him trying to become something that exists outside the current order. Neither alive nor dead, neither awake nor asleep. But here's where everything starts connecting in ways that will melt your brain. Remember those jaws I mentioned at the beginning? The warriors trying to meld themselves together? They were copying something they saw but didn't understand. In the deepest part of the game files, there are references to something called the One Great, which existed before the Greater Will, before any of the outer gods. The jars are trying to return to that state of unified existence, and the Erdtree, the collection system for souls I discovered, it's doing the same thing on a massive scale. Every single secret I've shared with you so far is building to this moment, because the final discovery changes everything about how we understand Elden Ring's story. The Tarnished, our character, isn't who we think they are. Using specific emotes in specific locations reveals hidden dialogue that's not subtitled, just audio files that play so quietly you need to amplify them to hear. These whispers reveal that the Tarnished didn't just die and come back. The Tarnished is a collection of souls, multiple warriors who died and were reformed into one being. That's why we can respect. That's why we can use any weapon or spell. That's why we never speak. We're not one person. We're a successful version of what the Jar Warriors were trying to become. The character creation screen isn't just choosing your appearance, it's choosing which soul's memories are dominant. The class you pick determines which warrior's skills surface first, but as you level up, you're not getting stronger. You're awakening the other souls within you. When you die and resurrect at a site of grace, you're not coming back to life. The collective is reconstituting itself, minus the runes that were binding some souls together. That's why you lose runes when you die. You're literally losing parts of yourself. This explains why Melina is so interested in us specifically. Her eye that sees the past can see what we really are, a successful fusion of multiple heroes from the past. She's not guiding the Tarnished, she's guiding an army in a single body. The reason she can burn herself to open the way to the fire giant is because she knows we carry enough souls to remember her, to carry her purpose forward even after she's gone. But wait, there's more. And this is the part that took me the final 1,000 hours to fully understand. The sites of grace aren't pointing you toward your destiny, they're pointing you toward the locations where your component souls died originally. Every major boss arena has a site of grace because one of the souls inside you died there in the past. You're not following Marika's guidance, you're retracing the steps of your own deaths, collecting the power you lost across multiple lifetimes. The Two Fingers know this, which is why they become unresponsive when you start asking too many questions. They can't guide something that technically shouldn't exist according to the Golden Order's rules. You're an anomaly. A glitch in the system that Marika created on purpose. She didn't just shatter the Elden Ring, she shattered the barrier between life and death, allowing souls to merge in ways that were never supposed to be possible. This is why Radagon fights you at the end. He's not protecting the Elden Ring, he's trying to prevent an abomination, from his perspective, from remaking the world. The Elden Beast appears because you represent such a fundamental violation of the Greater Will's design that it has to intervene directly. You're not just a Tarnished reclaiming lordship, you're proof that the entire system of separation between beings is artificial and can be overcome. The secret room I found with Goldmask's pointing, the child with Marika, that represents what she was trying to create, a being that could exist outside the influence of any outer god, formed from multiple sources, belonging to no single order. She succeeded, but not in the way she intended. Instead of creating one perfect child, she created the possibility for beings like us, composites who can choose their own nature. Every ending makes more sense now. The age of fracture isn't just repeating the cycle, it's a composite, being trying to hold together a fractured world that mirrors their own nature. The age of stars with Rani is one collective consciousness, choosing to bind themselves to another. The frenzied flame ending is all the souls within you, giving up on maintaining their separate identities and returning to primordial chaos. The age of order is attempting to create rules that make sense of what you are. The blessing of despair is acknowledging that existence itself is cursed when beings can be forcibly merged. And the age of Duskborn is accepting that the boundary between life and death was always an illusion. But here's the ultimate revelation that connects every single secret I've discovered. The 10,000 hours I spent in this game weren't just about finding hidden walls or secret dialogue. They were about uncovering the game's central message that FromSoftware hid in mechanical discoveries rather than exposition. The game is showing us that identity itself is an illusion, that we're all collections of experiences, memories, and influences from others. The Tarnished isn't unique in being a composite being, they're just aware of it. Every NPC questline that ends in tragedy is showing us people who can't accept their fractured nature. Blade can't reconcile his loyalty to Rani with his programming from the Two Fingers. Millicent literally splits into multiple versions of herself. Dee exists as two bodies with one soul. Alexander tries to become stronger by consuming warriors. They're all variations of what the Tarnished is, but they can't accept or control it. The reason this matters, the reason FromSoftware hid this so deeply, is because it's a commentary on the nature of identity in our own world. We're all composites of everyone we've met, every experience we've had, every piece of media we've consumed. The Tarnished journey isn't just a power fantasy about becoming Elden Lord, it's a meditation on accepting that we're not singular, unified beings, but collections of influences trying to make sense of existence. When you boot up Elden Ring, that title screen with the Tarnished walking toward the Erdtree isn't showing one hero approaching their destiny. It's showing a crowd of souls in a single body, walking toward a tree that will either recognize them as the natural evolution of existence, or reject them as an impossibility that shouldn't exist. The fact that we can win, that we can become Elden Lord, means that the world itself accepts that singular identity was always a lie, the Golden Order told to maintain control. Think about what this means for your playthrough. Every message you read from other players, every bloodstain you see, every phantom you observe, those aren't just multiplayer features. They're showing you the other souls, the other Tarnished who are part of the same collective consciousness, experiencing different aspects of the same journey. The multiplayer isn't breaking the fourth wall. It's showing you that the walls between individuals were never real to begin with. The reason invaders can enter your world isn't because of some arbitrary game mechanic. It's because all Tarnished are part of the same shattered whole, and sometimes those pieces come into conflict with each other. When you summon help, you're not calling in another player, you're temporarily reunifying with another aspect of the collective that was separated. The game's online features aren't additions to the story, they're fundamental to understanding what the Tarnished really is. This explains why every player can become Elden Lord in their own world. There isn't one true ending because there isn't one true Tarnished. Each playthrough is a different configuration of souls, reaching a different conclusion about what should be done with the power of the Elden Ring. The game isn't offering you choices, it's showing you that choice itself is an emergent property of being a collective rather than an individual. And now for the final secret that took me the longest to accept once I discovered it. The reason Melina burns herself isn't sacrifice, it's reunion. She's not a separate being helping you. She's the part of you that remembers why you were shattered in the first place. When she burns the Erdtree, she's not dying, she's returning to the collective, giving up her individual identity to ensure the whole can proceed. That's why she can appear in the frenzied flame ending with her eye open. She never left. She just stopped maintaining the illusion of separation. The closed eye that tracks you, that sees the past, It's seeing your past, all of your past, all the deaths and lives that make up what you are. The burns on her body aren't from fire. They're the marks left by each soul's death as they were forged into the collective. She appears burned because she's showing you what you really look like underneath the illusion of a unified form. Every single secret I've uncovered points to the same truth. The lands between isn't a place. It's a state of being between individual and collective, between one and many, between self and other. The Tarnished's journey isn't about becoming powerful enough to claim the Elden Ring. It's about accepting what you are fully enough to reshape reality according to your nature. The bosses aren't obstacles. They're aspects of existence that refuse to accept that the age of singular beings is over. Godfrey fights you because he represents the pure individual hero. Radahn holds the stars because he's trying to maintain the separation between cosmic forces. Melina dreams of being singular while rotting into multiplicity. Ricard consumes others but maintains his ego. Morgoth defends an order based on distinct bloodlines. They're all fighting against what you represent, the inevitable merger of all consciousness into something new. The greater will didn't abandon the lands between because it was disappointed or distant. It left because it realized what Marika was doing, creating beings that didn't need an outer god because they were becoming their own collective divinity. The Tarnished isn't chosen by grace. They're grace itself, distributed across multiple souls, returning to reclaim wholeness. So when you start your next playthrough, remember that you're not playing as a character. You're playing as a crowd, a legion, a collective that agreed to share a single form to achieve what none could accomplish alone. Every death isn't a failure, it's the collective learning. Every level up isn't growing stronger, it's more souls awakening within the shared body. Every ending isn't a choice, it's a vote among the multitude you carry within you. This is what FromSoftware spent years hiding in their game. Not just lore about gods and dragons, but a fundamental question about the nature of self. Are you one or many? Are you an individual or a collection of experiences? Are you the player, or are you every player who has ever touched the game, sharing in a collective experience that transcends individual playthroughs? The 10,000 hours I spent finding these secrets weren't just about discovery. They were about realizing that the game was teaching me something through the act of searching itself. Every hour spent was another soul's worth of experience adding to my understanding, making me more like the Tarnished, a composite of attempts and failures and discoveries. And the craziest part? This isn't even theoretical. The game's code supports all of this. The way runes are handled in memory, the way character data is stored, the way the game calculates your statistics, it all treats the player character as an array of values rather than a single entity. You're literally multiple data streams being processed as one output. FromSoftware didn't just hide this in the story, they built it into the fundamental architecture of how the game processes your existence within it. So what was the final secret that connects everything? It's this. Elden Ring isn't a game about becoming Elden Lord. It's a game about discovering that you already were one. You were just scattered across the lands between, experiencing yourself from multiple perspectives simultaneously, waiting to remember that you were always whole. The 10,000 hours weren't spent finding secrets. They were spent remembering who you are, piece by piece, death by death, soul by soul, until finally, at the end of this journey, you understand that the search itself was the secret. The lands between exist because you're between states of being. The Elden Ring is shattered because you're shattered. The world is dying because the fiction of individual existence is dying. And when you finally claim that throne, you're not fixing anything or breaking anything. You're just accepting what was always true. You are many, and you are one, and you are the space between those two states where all possibility exists. That's the secret that took 10,000 hours to find, not because it was hidden, but because it took that long to accept what the game was showing me from the very first frame. You don't play Elden Ring. You remember it. And every player who has ever touched this game is remembering the same thing from a different angle, building a collective understanding that no single person could ever achieve alone. We are the Tarnished. All of us. Together. And that's the most beautiful and terrifying secret FromSoftware ever hid in plain sight.